Hello everyone, I am very excited to be reading Dolly Alderton's new book, Good Material, and I'm going to be taking you along for the ride. Dolly Alderton has written several other books, but only one other novel called Ghosts. I read that, I quite enjoyed it, but I have to say I have quite mixed feelings about Dolly Alderton as an author in general, but this book in particular has received really good reviews. A lot of people seem to be feeling like it's her best yet, so I wanted to try it for myself. I definitely have my criticisms of her other books. She has a memoir, and that was probably my least favourite of her books. I'm sorry. Another thing that really entices me about this book, and is why I want to... So I don't know if you can see that, but it's so cold in my room. Did you see that? That my breath is condensing. Or sorry, should I say the water vapour in my breath is condensing. As I was saying, the reason why I'm particularly intrigued by this book, other than just the really good reviews, it's only been out for a month though, so I feel like often with books you get all the good reviews and then there's like another wave of reviews that are a little bit more measured. Like, same as said when a book comes out and everyone hates it, a few months later the other reviews come in and you're like, okay, that was a bit of a, everyone just jumped on the train, whether it be the hate train or the love train. The train has passed and now we've just got normal pedestrians, you know? I like the cover. I'm obsessed with colours, so this is exciting for me. I also like all the socks on the cover. They're kind of gross and they intrigue me. But most of all, the story interests me. Dolly Alderton is very girl focused. It's all about being a messy gal. Her memoir obviously is about herself, so it's like life of a messy woman. And her other novel, Ghosts, the protagonist is a woman. And so this book kind of feels like it's the man version of it. The protagonist of this book is a man and he gets dumped by a woman and he doesn't really understand why. So the book's meant to be about heartbreak, but it's kind of from this male perspective, which I think is going to be very interesting to read about from her. Because I know that sometimes when I read books that are written by men that are meant to be like with female main characters, I sometimes read them and I'm like, this person has no idea what is going through the minds of a woman. And I'm wondering if we're about to get the sort of flip side of that. I mean, I'm not a man, so I guess my criticism isn't super valid. Anyway, I'll probably check in pretty soon, to be honest, maybe 50 pages in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, let's get reading. Hi. I don't actually have that much to say, famous last words, but I promised you I'd let you know how I was finding it 50 pages in, so here I am, 51 pages in. I lied. I feel quite neutral, to be honest. One thing that really struck me is that I find that the voice is really similar to that of her memoir. I don't know, like, things don't have to be super gendered, but so far that isn't a good sign to me because it's kind of like she has such a distinctive tone and voice and sense of humour. I imagine that that's like really good when you're writing a memoir and really good in some contexts, but when you're trying to write from the point of view of different characters, it feels like that voice might be drowning out the character that she's trying to write from the perspective of. I am being hypercritical, like that's my absolute main gripe. I don't really have much of an issue with it so far. It's pretty readable, although it's not really gripping me. We'll see. I'm a bit of a cynic though, so maybe I'm getting in my head a little bit about it and I need to calm down. I also feel like I've had a bit of a revelation when it comes to Dolly Alderton books. That is, you need to relate to the characters to enjoy them to the fullest extent. I think obviously we all like to relate to characters and it's a good time relating to a character. You get a nice little extra connection, but I also think that some of the best books I've read I haven't really related to the characters at all and they're just brilliant books in themselves. But yeah, I worry that that is the case for Dolly Alderton's writing. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like that was quite negative of me, but I'm having an okay time. Sorry, I had another point. It's from the point of view of this man who's been broken up with, and I find it really weird thinking about, sorry, the light's bad, so my first thought is that, like, is this written from the point of view of like a guy that's broken up with her? Is she imagining what he thought. Sorry, a guy that she has broken up with before. I'm really curious as to where she got some of her inspiration from, because the main character, he's really being painted as quite emotionally unintelligent. I think they're trying to, I think she's tried to paint him as kind of lovable. I'm finding him a bit annoying at this point, but I'm pretty mean-spirited, so maybe it's just a me problem. Hello, good morning. We're at page 150, and it's safe to say I'm really zooming through this book. It's very consumable, you know? Lots of dialogue, lots of, the chapters are really short, lots of text conversations that obviously spread things out, and the font's just quite big. So that's quite satisfying. Feeling like you're, I don't know, having a successful reading session because the pages get turned so quickly. I have to say, I still feel the same about, like, this voice is just identical to Dolly's voice previously. I am more convinced that, like, convinced of the character. It's not totally out of place, but I'm curious as to what it's building up to, because as I've sort of mentioned, I don't really like the protagonist that much. He's really not in touch with his emotions, and that feels like it's the main message of the book. He's quite annoyed at the girlfriend. He's convinced that, or the ex-girlfriend, he's convinced that it was a complete shock. He never saw it coming. And to be fair, you do hear about that. So yeah, I also am excited to report that on page 120 something, I think, I chuckled. Like, I chuckled out loud. Which is not like me. I'm not an out loud chuckler at books. And to be honest, I didn't even think I was finding the book that chuckle worthy, but there was just one particular image that I really enjoyed. It's his relationship with his personal trainer. So yeah, good times. I do sort of feel like there is just humour squeezed into every crevice of the book, and I would kind of rather more of an emphasis on quality, not quantity. I mean, I guess the protagonist is, like, he's a comedian, so maybe that's how he sees the world, but it's a little bit annoying at times. I sort of want a bit of variety. I don't know, we've got some good weird little characters here and there. He's got a weird landlord who's providing a bit of entertainment. Yeah, anything else that I need to say? Let me check my notes. Oh, I actually did really enjoy this quote. It's page 144. For those who are reading along with me, let's see what the quote was. Sorry, it's like 8 AM, which is maybe why I'm a bit crusty right now. He talks about, like, why men struggle to talk about their emotions, and he says, he's like, oh, it's not because we're afraid to be vulnerable, it's because we just feel really out of our depth. And he likens it to, you know, when he sees women talk to each other about their emotions, they just kind of express themselves and comfort each other and and in a really coordinated, comfortable way, like an orchestra. And then he says that he's the horn tooting offbeat randomly, and it's just embarrassing. And this part is in response to his mum being like, how are you? Like, he's kind of like, I want to tell her how I am, but how? Like, if anything I say is just going to sound stupid. Which is really interesting. Let's, I never know how to mini outro these parts. Okay. For those wondering, I'm drinking coffee from my asparagus mug while I read. It's amazing. I am extremely intrigued. I'd be curious as to whether any male readers relate to this or kind of disagree with the stereotype that that it's portraying, because there are these moments where it does feel like it is sorry, my dishwasher, it is really empathetic, and it's not painting him in a really bad light, but it is, why is it not fixing, but he does seem pretty sort of emotionally incompetent. I mean, I guess maybe she's intentionally painting a bit of an extreme stereotype, but yeah, interesting. I'm looking forward to, like, reading other people's reviews once I've finished. Okay, let's get back to it. I think I've just passed the halfway mark, actually, so going well. It's only been 2 days. Okay. Hi, hello. We have reached page 300, which is very exciting because that means we have like 40 pages left. I have to say, I have rushed through it actually. Before I start complaining, I have really been able to just scream through this book, but I don't know, like there isn't a particularly gripping story, no typical build-up. I haven't really got any questions, but we'll see. Maybe there'll be a dramatic twist that'll throw me. I really thought more would happen though. He gets broken up with, he wallows, and you have sort of funny little quirky moments, but I think because it's not quite my sense of humour, like the quirky moments aren't quite enough for me to sustain interest. It's also just weird thinking about, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, but it like still stands and it feels even more prominent now. It's weird thinking about her writing this, and is she imagining that this is what someone she's broken up with has gone through? Obviously I assume that her research was like more thorough than that, but because it is actually very flattering and paints the girlfriend in a really good light. She's the kind of emotionally intelligent good person, and he's this incredibly whiny stunted man that is kind of written about with love, but if anything I'm like, is this a bit patronising? I also, though, now that I've read quite a few of Dolly Alderton's books, I also feel like maybe that's just what her books are meant to be, but then all the sort of quotes and the way people talk about it, and all the, I mean the quotes on the cover, they're obsessed with like talking about how emotionally intelligent her writing is and how like it's really heart-wrenching, people cry, and I just wouldn't say that these books are quite that for me. Right, so I'm currently finishing off the book in bed. That's the dehumidifier in the background. I'm so cold, but the windows are just like too drafty to have the heating on, so here we are. I just thought it was a funny sight with the hat on. Anyway, I've literally got 20 pages left. I need to focus, get down to it. I finished it. I think I'm gonna save my feelings, my thoughts for the morning. See you then. Hello. It's actually been a really long time, and I'm submitting my Goodreads review of this book. Shall I give you a little sneak preview? Oh no, it's zoomed in. Oh no. First of all, sorry for ignoring you for quite a long time. I have had an unbelievable week. A lot has happened. It hasn't been bad, don't worry. I'll tell you about it when I'm older. So that ruined my joke. I'll tell you about it when you're older. It's just been kind of rough, and I really haven't had the energy to film. But I'm keen to. It's a compromise, I guess. Like you wanna give people the news hot off the press, but I also think these days have been quite useful for me digesting the story. So, not gonna lie, I ultimately am quite disappointed by Good Material. The more time I gave away from it, the more I feel like I just didn't enjoy it that much. It was so distinctive, it's so Dolly Alderton. If you loved any of her other books, you probably will like this. I still would argue that this is my least favourite of her books. She's got a really warm tone, I don't know how else to put it. The humour is like a really specific type of humour, but you know, like that's a comfort to some people. Sometimes you just want to read books. It kind of reminded me of when I read an Ali Hazelwood romance. What was it? Love Theoretically? The Love Hypothesis. And then later I got loads of targeted videos on my TikTok of people saying that all of her books are exactly the same. And it kind of gave me that energy. What was weird about this one as well? Well, first of all, the main character's insufferable. Really, really awful, but in a way that made me also feel sorry for him, like in a way that I didn't enjoy. Like the only empathy I had for him, which in another world might have made me enjoy the book more, only made me enjoy it less, because I kind of felt bad for him because of how he had been written. Like it made me not like him, and it made me also not like Dolly. Like for what she had done to him as a character. It was a real caricature of the just emotionally stunted man, and I would have probably rathered a slightly more subtle version of that, because apart from anything else, it just ended up feeling quite repetitive. Like, we get it, you're resentful. I mean, I guess maybe you're trying to get that across, like, that is what people experience in breakups. People get repetitive, they get boring. That's kind of the point. But either way, it made me not enjoy the reading experience as much. The structure was also bizarre. This isn't really a spoiler, I've seen people talk about it in reviews. It's basically just like his point of view, the breaker-uppy, his point of view for 300 pages. And then the last part is, the only way I can describe it is it's like a book version of the last part of Saltburn. So like the film montage that you get, where it suddenly shows you the other point of view and like it all comes together. So you get, at the end of this book, you get her point of view, and you know, become enlightened about certain aspects, and it's kind of like, plot twist, she was sad too. But as you can probably gather from that tone, like, I just felt like that was quite a shallow message. And I also didn't like the structure, because I would have wanted that to have been woven in, because it wasn't a suspenseful book. It felt kind of weird for there to be this grand reveal at the end that was like, these are her feelings. And I feel, I don't know, like, I'm curious as to what the discussions were around that. Like, did they feel that that was a really clever way of doing it and of putting it in? I haven't actually read any other books that are structured like that, that have the kind of montage of other POV. Yeah, weird. I just found it weird. But I don't know, maybe I'm just, because I've had a really stressful week, maybe I'm now just like all negative and mean-spirited. I don't know if I have anything else to say, to be honest. If you're someone who likes Dolly Alderton's books, and if you're someone who maybe is curious about the storyline, about getting inside the brain of a guy who's been broken up with, it's more just like trigger warning, not trigger warning, just warning, he's kind of annoying. So just be ready for that. Be ready for him to be like pretty insufferable. But now I've equipped you with the knowledge, go forth, read it or don't read it. I hope you have a lovely week. Thank you for watching. Oh, final thing. Oh, I was just building up there, sorry, interrupted. FYI, because I haven't done it, I should have done a January TBR, shouldn't I? But I haven't. And instead, I'm gonna read Babel next. So I'm really excited for that. Anyway, goodbye, have a good week.